Everyone wants to be more confident, but they miss the most important ingredient. When I was young, about 13 years old, I had a friend named Kevin. We're not very close anymore. Kevin and I bonded over the fact that we were both massive losers and we never dared to speak to girls. But I remember this one moment during school camp. I could hear people clapping, so I followed the sounds to see what people were doing, and it led me to the campfire area. And I couldn't believe my eyes as I approached the campfire. Never have I felt more betrayed in my life. There was Kevin, sitting around the fire pit, playing his ukulele and talking to girls. I felt so angry. I felt, again, so betrayed. I stormed back to the cabin and pretended to go to sleep. I didn't even talk to him the entire night. Even when he walked in to me, I was like, I woke up the next morning and again Kevin wasn't there. And I remember thinking to myself, great, he's probably talking to girls again. I walked to the breakfast area because that's where everyone gathered in the morning. And what I saw again shocked the hell out of me. Kevin was sitting by himself. And I thought to myself, what the hell? But then very quickly I thought to myself, yes, there's my friend. There's the Kevin I know. I got my friend back. This moment always stuck with me because it confused me. I didn't know what happened and I never really quite understood it. Let me explain to you what happened. On that night when Kevin was playing the ukulele, he was contextually confident in that moment. Because he was good at the ukulele, when he plays it, it makes him feel confident. The next morning, when he was at the breakfast table, he didn't have his ukulele, which meant that in that context, he wasn't confident. Understanding contextual confidence is crucial for this next point that I'm about to make. The reason why communication skills are so important is because when you learn how to master this instrument, your ability to communicate, think about this for a moment. Can you leave your voice at home? Can you leave your ability to storytell at home? Can you leave your masterful use of body language at home? No. And do you know what this means? This means that as you master your instrument, being your communication ability, you become contextually confident in every single area of your life. This is the biggest key to confidence that most people rarely talk about. Everyone wants to be more confident, but they miss developing a vital skill: communication skills. Here's a really confusing one for you. What if I told you that there are no good behaviors in communication and there are also no bad behaviors either? There are just behaviors that either serve you or behaviors that don't serve you. Let me tell you what I mean. You see, I had one of my students come up to me and she spoke extremely quietly and she was really annoyed at that she spoke so quietly. And then I asked her to dig deeper. I said, look, tell me why you think you speak really quietly. Go back into your past. When did you start developing this speaking behavior? And she paused for a few moments and started thinking. And she came up with this answer. I get it. I remember when it was now. When I was young, I spoke quietly because I wanted to avoid the school bully. I wanted to fly under the radar and go unnoticed. You see, that was a really powerful insight that she had just made there. And what that proves is that at some point in time in her life, speaking quietly actually served her. That behavior was beneficial for her because it allowed her to fly under the radar. However, right now in her leadership role as a leader in her company, that behavior no longer serves her. Now let's turn the attention on you just for a moment. There are behaviors that you currently exhibit that you've adopted from since you were young that are no longer serving you in this period of life. Again, don't judge the behavior and go, this is good, this is bad. No. These behaviors are neutral. They're either just serving you or they're not serving you. And the important thing you need to do is to identify which behaviors are currently serving you when you communicate and which behaviors are not. That's all. The reality is most people go through their entire lives never improving the way they communicate, never changing any of the behaviors that they've adopted since they were young. One of the most powerful things you can do on your communication skills journey is to review and reflect upon all the behaviors you currently exhibit and identify the ones that are no longer serving you in this chapter in your life. Do your conversations feel a little bit flat? If you said yes, you might just be a little bit boring. Let's talk about it. One of the first quick fixes I would recommend, use metaphors. Imagine telling someone that you are the anchor of my life. That instantly communicates trust, stability, and that person grounds you. Here are 3 powerful reasons why you should consider using metaphors in your daily conversations. Number 1, they simplify the complex. Imagine you had to explain the Internet of Things, something complex, without a metaphor, which I highly don't recommend because it annoys the hell out of people. Let me give you an example. The Internet of Things refers to the network of physical objects or things embedded with sensors, software, and other technologies. For the purpose of connecting and exchanging data with other devices and systems over vehicles, industrial. The goal of the Internet of Things is to create a smarter and more... How difficult was that to understand? Now I'm going to explain the same thing, except I'm going to use a metaphor to explain it. Imagine your household appliances are like musicians in an orchestra. Individually, each one performs well. But what if they could all coordinate? The refrigerator knows when you're low on milk and tells the grocery app. The thermostat can sense when you're on your way home and adjust the temperature. In the orchestra, each musician communicates with the other, led by the conductor, being your smartphone. That's the Internet of Things. Wasn't that a lot easier to understand using the orchestra as the metaphor? This happens because I'm taking a known and linking it to an unknown. Number 2, metaphors create emotional depth. Here's a universal truth without a metaphor. See how this makes you feel. Fear keeps you from what you want. Fear is like a locked door separating you from your desires. And here's the messed up part. You're the one holding the key. Doesn't that stir up more emotions compared to fear keeps you from what you want? Number 3, metaphors are extremely sticky. Do you remember the metaphor that I used to explain the Internet of Things? Do you remember? If you remember the orchestra, you just proved my point. So if you want to make your conversations more engaging, more insightful, and simply unforgettable, sprinkle in some metaphors. And here's a pro tip. If you want to make your pizzas as good as your conversations, add in a little anchovy and sprinkle in a ton of pineapples. Yeah. I hate my voice. I sound boring. I have no presence. I have no authority or credibility when I talk. I always mumble. Ugh, I am so monotone. I see comments like this on my videos all the time on social media. We are so mean to ourselves, and we make judgments about how we communicate as if they're permanent. And I don't mean to get philosophical with you, but I'm going to get philosophical with you. Nothing is permanent. You are not permanent. I am not permanent. The things we own are not permanent. Even a bloody permanent marker isn't permanent. Everything in life is temporary. Even the harsh judgments, especially the harsh judgments you make about yourself. I really want you to anchor this into your mind. All of the mean judgments that you make about yourself, they are all temporary. Let's take one example. Or let's take multiple examples.
I sound boring.
Well, let's add more melody to your voice.
I have no presence, Vin.
Well, let's use bigger body language when you talk.
I hate my voice, Vin.
Well, let's learn how to train this instrument so you learn how to play it more beautifully. The moment we make judgments about ourselves as if they're permanent, do you know what happens? We no longer try to change anything. We just give up and we lose all hope. I'm here to remind you that, again, nothing is permanent and everything in this life is temporary. I'm here to remind you, in case no one's told you recently, you are more capable than you think. You have more potential in you than you think. And you are more amazing than you realize. This is the biggest misconception that will keep you sounding the same with your voice for the rest of your life. Most of my students believe that the voice they have right now is their natural voice. How do I know this? Because every single time I get my students to play with their voice and I push them to be a little silly and playful, and I get them to do things like this with their voice, or I get them to do things like this with their voice, they say things to me like, "Oh my God, no, Vin, don't make me do that. That's not my natural voice, Vin." Listen, the voice you have right now is is not your natural voice. It's not. Your natural voice, you lost it when you were 2 to 3 years old. The voice you have right now is what's known as your habitual voice. It's a series of habits that you've developed unconsciously based on the people you were inspired by when you were young. For example, if you were inspired by mum, and mum had a very strong booming voice, then you would adopt that behavior and you would speak like mum. If you're inspired by your teacher and your teacher had very quiet speaking habits, then because you were inspired by your teacher, you would adopt those speaking habits. We do this unconsciously based on the people around us growing up, based on who we're inspired by. And you see, communication as a skill set, it's often something that people leave to chance. And people don't actually consciously think about this. By the time you've hit your early adulthood, it's one of those things you either have or you don't have. And if you have it, well, you move through life with a little more grace. And if you don't have it, it's like you're driving with the brakes on that also squeal. This is not a skill set that is focused on in our formative years in school. And it's not a skill set that our employers often invest in. At the end of the day, sure, you can just wait for the right person to come into your life and influence you in the right way. Or sure, you could wait till your employer invests in you. Or you can start taking responsibility for your own damn success and take action now. Getting this one word wrong actually makes you sound terrible when you talk. Let me explain. First, I've got a couple of questions for you. Number one, what do you do with a hammer? Well, you use a hammer to hammer things. Second question, what do you do with a drill? Well, you can use a drill to drill things. I know these questions seem rather obvious, but let me ask you a couple more. When you think about tools, what do you do with tools in general, regardless of the tool? Well, you use them. And that right there is where the problem lies. People, when they think about their voice, they think about their voice as being a tool. I know my students think of their voice as being a tool because when I ask them, what do you do with your voice? What they say is,
Then, well, we use our voice every day to communicate.
and again, that right there is the biggest problem and the biggest mistake in the world of communication. Let's dive deeper into this. With a guitar, what do you do with it? Do you use a guitar? No, you play the guitar. What about a piano? Do you use a piano? No. As I look to another angle to make things more dramatic and engaging. No, you don't use a piano. You play the piano. See where I'm going with this? The key word that people get wrong when they communicate is instead of playing with their voice, they use their voice. Your voice is not a tool. It's an instrument. And if you go through this life just using your instrument, you're not being as influential nor impactful as you can be. Let me show you a clip of someone using the piano. Now let me show you someone who plays with the piano masterfully. Wasn't the difference between those two examples absolutely outrageous? The same goes for the piano, the same goes with your voice. I could use my voice. Let me give you 10 seconds of me using my voice. Alright, I'm just going to give you an example of me using my voice, and this is just me using it. I know it's a very dramatic example of it, but I'm doing this to prove a point. Sorry. Can you see, hear, and feel the difference? If you learn how to play with your voice masterfully, you'll be able to move people, you'll be able to connect with people more easily, and you'll be able to have more impact every single time you open your mouth and you talk. I get this question a lot. How do I get better at expressing myself? And to answer this, I have to share with you what I saw at a friend's birthday party. Well, it was for his kids. But I was there, and his name's Finn. And I watched Finn walk up to Mum, her name's Celeste. Mum, can I have some chocolates? And Mum said,
No, you've had enough chocolates for the day.
And I watched Finn then walk up to his dad, who's Lenny, one of my good friends. Dad, can I have more chocolates, please? And the dad immediately just took a chocolate and said,
Here you go, buddy, of course.
I thought that was brilliant. Children are so smart. And what's even more interesting is I watched the other kids watch Finn. And the other kids learned from that interaction immediately. None of them went to their mums. They all immediately went to their dads, and every single dad fell for it immediately and then just gave their kids chocolate.
Human beings are a remarkable species. We learn so much from watching other people. So when it comes to you getting better at expressing yourself, I can almost guarantee you that there are great communicators who already exist in your circle. All you have to do is pay attention to how they express themselves. How do they use their voice? What kind of language do they use? Do they use their facial expressions? Do they use their hand gestures? All you have to do is pay more attention to what they're doing. Then from those interactions, you're going to pick up some clues. And then you have to do what the other kids did once they learnt from Finn. They practiced it and they went to their own fathers and asked them for chocolate. That's what you're going to have to do too. As you learn these little behavioral traits that the great communicators around you exhibit, you then have to take those traits and practice them. So look out for the Finns in your world. Look out for the great communicators. Look out for those who are great at expressing themselves and model their behavior. And more importantly, again, practice those behaviors. Don't feel like you have to learn everything on your own. You can learn from others.
This is where it becomes incredibly important for the communicator to be aware of their body language and understand how to use their voice. I've seen doctors do this.
Hi, Susan. Susan, look, thank you so much for coming in today. I'm really unfortunate news with the test this evening. You have cancer, and with the cancer that you have, it's quite aggressive, and maybe get your family in. Hopefully they can support you. You've got 6 months. I do apologize. Very unfortunate news. I really didn't want to give you this news. I know you've been waiting for the results for this, Susan, and do you have a moment to sit down with me? Let's sit down and let's have a chat. Susan, what I'm about to share with you is going to be very difficult for you to hear. Susan, the results have come back and it's not looking good. Now, Susan, I just want to share with you that even though what I'm about to say is going to be scary, I'm here for you. As your doctor, we're going to walk through this path together. All right? And I want you to know that I've walked so many people down this path and they survived. Susan, you do have cancer. And the good news is you've come in early and we've been able to detect it. Okay, Susan? And look, I know you're scared. I know you're scared. I am too. But I want you to know that I've been in this industry now for the last 20 years. And I'm going to be holding your hand every step through the process. All right? And as hard as it's going to be, you're not alone. So I want to make sure that you reach out to me anytime you want to chat about this. I will give you time and space. I will make sure your family comes in. You tell them what's going on. And let's walk through this together. You're not alone in this.
I would really use my voice, my instrument, my facial expressions, my body. I'd use everything I can to show and display love. Again, if I switch back, I spoke with lots of energy. At the moment, something requires nurture, love, and care. I have the ability to switch into a complete different gear. I've had family members in my family who've had cancer and have passed away, and the people who delivered the news, it was just straight to the cut. It was like another day, it's just another Tuesday. It's another Tuesday for me, right? And it hurt. It hurt. The reason why I teach communication skills is so that people can unlock this incredibly powerful tool. Their voice, their body language, their ability to ask questions, actively listen, storytell. These are such critical skill sets. And yet sometimes we walk through life speaking in one way, only one way, all the time. Because imagine even if I was being all inspiring and I came in, it doesn't work. And that person's going to walk away going, I don't even know how to feel. I mean, he was inspiring, but I'm going to die. What the hell is happening? And this is the issue. We don't get trained with our communication skills. Think about it, in school. Guess what? In school, a whole year, you have one day to practice your presentation skills. And you know what happens on that day? You get sick and you stay home. Let me see your best time again. Guess what? You get to stay home. You don't even get to practice your communication skills. And that was the one day you got to practice it. Do you get taught communication skills in your professional careers? No. We get taught what to say, but we don't get taught how to say it. How you say it has a massive impact on how the other person receives the information you delivered. I could say the most profound thing, but if I don't deliver it masterfully, you'll receive it as average advice. The opposite is also true. There are also people out there in the world delivering average advice in such a profound way that you sit there, you go, damn, that's powerful. When in actual fact, it might not be. That's what we call charlatans. And there are charlatans, and some people think I'm a charlatan, and that's alright too. You can think whatever you want. It's your brain, it's your mind. People use their instrument for good, people use their instrument for evil, people use their instrument for greed, people use their instrument to try to have more impact out there in the world. The reason I'm here, the reason I'm teaching this right now is because I really hope that I can teach enough good people out there to use their instrument for good, so we can overwhelm the shitty things that are happening in the world right now with enough good people who use their instrument for good. And again, this is not me trying to be Mother Teresa, me trying to be, oh, look at them goody shoes. No. I'm flawed in so many ways that if I told you them all, you all would bloody unfollow me. I'm a human, I'm just like you. I get lazy, I procrastinate, I buy shit I don't need to impress people that I don't care about. I do many things wrong, but I do one thing I feel quite well, and that's teach communication skills. I've been blessed to have this vehicle now to teach communication skills to so many people in the world. And with that one thing that I can control and that I'm pretty good at, I'm gonna try to encourage people to use their voice to spread more love, to spread more kindness, and to spread more compassion. Know that you have an incredible instrument. I just encourage you to use your voice today to make somebody else feel better about themselves. Maybe it's your children today. Maybe they need a bit of your energy. Maybe it's your partner. Maybe you can send some good vibes their way. Maybe they're sitting across the room from you right now. Give them some of your energy. Give them some of the good vibes in your voice. Give them some of the good vibes from your heart.
We're going to break down one of the greatest characters in history, Tommy from the Peaky Blinders. And we're going to look at 3 areas in particular. Number 1, volume. Number 2, rate of speech. Number 3, facial expressions. Now, when you think about volume, I have to get you to imagine a bell curve. And when you think of a bell curve, we've got 0 all the way through to 10. Most people speak from a 3 to an 8. That's where most people would speak with their volume. That's where the general public's volume would lie. Now, when it comes to Tommy, he tends to speak around a 2 or a 9. So have a listen to him at a 2.
It'll be me, Dad. Are you?
Now have a listen to him at a 9.
Nearly got fucking everything!
You see, what Tommy is doing here is he's speaking outside of the normal bell curve. That's why we think he's so interesting. That's why we find him so intriguing. And when it comes to the foundation of volume, when we are being really quiet, as you saw Tommy Shelby do, and when we're being really obnoxiously loud, these are ways to create intensity. Now let's talk about Tommy's rate of speech. Regardless of how intense the situation is of what's going on around him, it could be a full-blown fight. What you notice him do throughout the series is he will always keep a really calm and relaxed rate of speech, no matter what's happening.
You know, gentlemen, there is hell, and there is another place below hell. I'll remember everything.
And the reason why that's so powerful is because that then portrays that Tommy is always in control. No one can throw him off balance. And finally, the reason why Tommy is such an incredible gangster and he plays such an intriguing character, such a mysterious character, and such an intense character is because regardless of, again, what's going on, he could be killing somebody, he will have 0 facial expressions. And that just gives this coldness, this cold attribute to the character. Tommy's way of talking is fantastic, especially if you live in 1919 in Birmingham and you're a part of the Shelby family. If that's the case, then I highly recommend you keep talking like that. Now, if you live in the modern world, then if you speak like this on a daily basis, it's not going to serve you at all. Cut.